exceptional results. My name is Ben Azadi. I am the best-selling author of 4 books, including Keto Flex. I'm the founder of Keto Camp, and I'm excited to share these 2 tips with you. And I know this is going to make a big difference for those of you who are doing keto or thinking about doing keto. We're going to talk about how to get faster results as it relates to weight loss and fat loss. A lot of people come to keto because they want to lose extra weight. And keto could be very powerful to help you accomplish that, but it works in a different mechanism, a different way than you might think. So I'm going to talk about that. There's two primary and I have my flip chart here. So I'm going to go over this with you. And if you're watching on Instagram and TikTok, even if you can't see the chart, I'll explain what's on the chart. But for those on YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn, you could see the chart when I get to it. But there are two primary reasons how keto helps you lose weight. Number one, when you're in a state of ketosis, what does that even mean? That means you have lowered your dietary intake of carbohydrates. For most people, that's going to be under 50 total grams of carbs per day, total grams, not net, total grams of carbs per day, with those carbs coming from maybe green leafy vegetables, if you could tolerate them, non-starchy vegetables, low glycemic fruits like berries. That lowers glucose and insulin in your body. And what happens is you start to deplete your sugar reserves, what's called your glycogen stores. You have these backup reserves in your liver and muscle cells called your glycogen stores. And as you lower your carbs after a few days, you now deplete your sugar reserves and now you tap and access your body fat. That is the goal. Once your body starts accessing body fat, you become fat adapted, meaning you're burning fat now instead of sugar. That makes sense. You've used the sugar. Now it's time to use a different source, fat. And let's face it, we have body fat for that reason. It's the reason why our ancestors existed and survived, I should say, because if not for this process of ketosis, they would not have been able to survive. When you start tapping into body fat, you start to use those fatty acids that are sent to your liver. Your liver is this very powerful organ on the right side of your rib cage. It receives those fatty acids being sent from mobilizing fat. And what happens is now the liver produces ketones. And there are 3 types of ketones that are produced. There is acetoacetate, which you would measure in urine strips. I'll talk about flaws with that. There's acetone, which you would measure in breath. And then there is blood. So when we think about what the 2 primary mechanisms to why keto helps you lose weight, it's not because you're cutting calories. Calories are matter, but they're not important. They're actually very low on the priority list. It's not about calories. Here are the 2 primary reasons why that blow the calories in versus calories out debate out of the water, because that's old dogma, old stinking thinking. I used to teach it for many years. I've been in the health space for 15 plus years, probably for the first 8 years. I taught the whole calories in versus calories out thing. And it does people just a huge disservice. So if you have somebody teaching you calories in versus calories out, red flag. They are not caught up with the science. So here's what the science shows. When you're in a state of ketosis, those ketones are actually communicating with your mitochondria. Your mitochondria, as you learned in biology class, are these energy power plants within your cells. Some cells, some cells have um, a few hundred mitochondria. More metabolically active cells like your eyes, your heart, your brain, your ovaries, your testicles have thousands to, in some cases, some regions of the brain have 2.5 million mitochondria, like the locus coeruleus in the brain, which is really, really cool. And when the ketones are communicating with the mitochondria, it actually signals to your mitochondria to reproduce. This is called mitochondrial biogenesis. With the creation of new mitochondria, there's an increase in ATP production. ATP is the energy currency of your cells. It's what the mitochondria produces. It's the energy it produces. So with the increase in mitochondria, there's an increase in ATP. So if you look at the medical textbooks out there and we study how the mitochondria produce energy, it's called the electron transport chain. We're looking at a mitochondria that's using sugar. So you're not in ketosis, you're burning sugar. That mitochondria is producing about 32 to 36 of these energy units, ATP. The cool thing is this, when we compare that to a mitochondria using ketones, it produces over 130 ATP units. That is a 400% increase in energy production, ATP production, when you're in ketosis versus when you're not in ketosis. How cool is that? And that is because of the creation of new mitochondria. But here's the point I'm trying to make. With the creation of more energy, guess what it does for your metabolism? It raises your basal metabolic rate, so you naturally will burn more calories sitting on the couch and without having to be handcuffed to tracking everything that goes into your mouth and calculating every calorie and trying to being in a deficit, which does not work long term. So that is the one of two primary mechanisms that you lose weight on keto, raises your basal metabolic rate because of the mitochondrial biogenesis. The second major reason why we lose weight, actually, there's three. The second one is when you lower your carbohydrate intake, you lower insulin. And maybe many people in the keto space might tell you insulin is bad. We should hate insulin. That is not true. Insulin is a energy sensing hormone. And when there's excess glucose in the bloodstream, the pancreas, the beta cells of your pancreas will the insulin troops will be called to shuttle the glucose, the excess glucose out of the bloodstream because it's the energy sensor and put it into your fat cells. This happens from time to time. It's no big deal. It's actually really important for survival. That's why insulin is important. It's an important hormone. But when it happens too much, and too often, and too frequently, that is a problem. You start to store fat and gain weight. So with keto, obviously you're lowering your carbs because out of the three macronutrients, which one spikes insulin the most? Y'all know this. Carbohydrates, especially processed carbs. Fat doesn't touch the dial on insulin, and protein is a phase two response, not phase one, meaning smaller response versus sugar or carbs. As you lower insulin, you actually allow your body to tap into fat storage for energy. That's the second mechanism of weight loss on keto. The third mechanism is a downregulation of cell membrane inflammation. Only, this is the key word, underline only if you're taking notes, if keto is done a clean way. And I'm going to show you what that means with my next flip chart slide here. When you eat the right fats on keto and avoid the inflammatory ones, you downregulate cell membrane inflammation. This is important because now your hormones, including your fat burning hormones, could attach to those receptor sites and do the job of burning fat, producing energy, and feeling good. Those are the three primary mechanisms of how you lose weight on keto. Let's get into how to track ketones and blood glucose to make sure you're in this fat burning state. Just because you're eating keto might not mean you're there yet. So, first thing I want you to understand is that we don't chase ketones, we chase results. There are three ways to measure ketones. Let me show this to you here. There are three ways to measure ketones because there are three types of ketones, and I outlined all three at the beginning of this live stream. Acetoacetate is measured in urine strips, breath, acetone, breath meters, blood, beta hydroxybutyrate, finger prick. Urine strips, which is probably the most common because they're very cheap, it's not going to be an accurate way to test. So you might see that, oh, I'm not in ketosis. These urine strips are not showing the color or the shade that I want, but you might very well be because when your cells and mitochondria are now familiar with using ketones, it's not necessarily going to spill out in your urine, giving you a false negative. So I would not recommend urine. Breath meters could be hit or miss depending on the meter. The one we like to use in our Keto Camp Academy is called the BioSense device, and that is a good device. I like that one. But the gold standard of testing ketones is blood. We use a machine called Keto Mojo. You can get their machine over at ketocampmachine.com and use the coupon code KetoCamp for a nice discount. That is going to be the best way to test blood because blood is looking at beta hydroxybutyrate. And it's not a matter of I just want to get as high, much ketones as possible. That is not what we want. Just like we don't want high glucose, we don't want high ketones, but there is a sweet spot. And I'm going to outline that for you here. When we think about the sweet spots, the optimal blood ketone ranges, let me actually make this higher. The optimal blood ketone ranges, if you're testing your blood ketones, which I recommend you do, is going to be 0.8 to 2.8. Now, let me just make this clear. If it's zero point 0.5, which is measuring the ketone meter is measuring millimoles per liter. If it's zero point 0.5 millimoles per liter or higher, you're in a state of ketosis. You're burning fat instead of sugar, and that's great. We want to get you there. But a good sweet spot for fat burning is to get it closer to 2.8. 0.8 to 2.8 is a good sweet spot to feel good, especially like with brain fog challenges. But getting it 1.8, 2.0, 2.5, that is a good, if you're not testing and you're wondering why you're not losing weight on keto, this could be it. You want to test. And there's some cool things you can do if you don't see your ketones in that range. If you just see maybe zero point 0.6 or zero point 0.4, caffeine has been shown to help elevate ketone production. So has caprylic acid, which is C8 MCT oil or MCT powder. You might want to put that in your coffee. That could enhance ketone production. Intermittent fasting could enhance ketone production. But test, don't guess. And another reason why I love the Keto Mojo is because it gives you your blood glucose. And that is very important to look at as well. And the breath meter could be great, but it's not giving you blood at all. It's giving you just ketones in the form of acetone. So right here, you're going to see the optimal ranges for blood glucose. And there's some advanced tips here I'm going to share with you. This is some advanced stuff I teach my Keto Camp Academy students. I hope you're enjoying this so far. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe and hit the thumbs up button. In a fasted state, let's say in the morning, an hour after you wake up, you haven't eaten for at least 12 hours, that would be classified as a fasted state. The blood glucose should be somewhere between 70 to 90 milligrams per deciliters, and that's what it's going to test for on that Keto Mojo. 70 to 90 milligrams per deciliters is what the body considers an optimal state for great fat burning, for inflammatory levels, etc. And if you see a higher fasting glucose, you understand this is probably one of the reasons why you're not getting results on keto. And there's some things you can do about this, which in my next slide will illustrate that. And then we have something called postprandial glucose. This is very important to check. Postprandial means after eating a meal. And an hour after eating a meal, we want to see your glucose at 120 milligrams per deciliter or less. We don't want to see it above 120. Then you could test 2 hours after eating. It should drop back below 100 milligrams per deciliter. Even better, getting to the baseline where it was before you broke the fast. So let's say if you tested your blood glucose right before you broke the fast and it was 85, which is great, and then 2 hours later it's closer to 85 again, that is fantastic. Like, that's what you want to get to. So take a screenshot there. That's what you want to get to. If you're hitting these numbers right here, you're going to be getting some fat loss. You're going to be feeling good. And if you're not, you have some things to work on. In the second slide here, I'm going to show to you, that's probably one of those things you want to work on. So I hope that makes sense so far. If it does, type in the chat box. That makes sense, Ben. Let's get to the next slide. And by the way, I'm going to open it up to some Q&A after the next slide here. All right, next slide. There's a big difference between clean keto foods and dirty keto foods. Just because something is keto friendly does not make it health friendly. It's true. There's a lot of inflammatory keto ingredients out there because keto is so popular. I know you can't see the whiteboard. That's why I'm reading it to you. Uh, there's a lot of ingredients on keto that's actually inflammatory, actually cause weight gain, cause inflammation. So just because it's keto doesn't mean it's healthy. Keto friendly is not the same thing as health friendly. So on the left here, I have these keto-friendly foods that are highly inflammatory, arguably more inflammatory than sugar, arguably more inflammatory than smoking cigarettes. These are oils. The top list here are oils. These are called polyunsaturated fatty acids, PUFAs. And it's not because they're omega-6s that make them bad. It's because of the way they process them that make them bad. So it's the adulteration of these oils that make them bad. So we have canola oil, which is called rapeseed oil in the UK. Keep that in mind. Corn oil, cottonseed oil, soybean oil, safflower oil, peanut oil, sunflower oil. I think I said soybean oil, rice bran oil. These are inflammatory, and I would put peanut oils on there. These are inflammatory oils that we want to avoid as much as possible. Shoot, I have it over there. I meant to bring it here. So what I do at restaurants, and I want you to adopt this tip, is I have 'Cause at restaurants, they're going to cook with these oils. And what I do is I tell the server I'm allergic to these oils. I actually have a seed oil allergy card. Let me see if I can get that for you. Give me 1 second. Okay, I'm back. I have these seed oil allergy cards where on the card, and I'll read it to you because I know it's hard to see, but on the card it says, "Dear chef, I'm allergic to these vegetable oils. In order for me to avoid an allergic reaction at your restaurant, please make sure you don't cook my food in the following oils." And it has these 8 inflammatory oils listed with red X's. And then it says the following alternatives are safe. And it has the ones here that are safe. So you would present this to your server, tell them you're allergic, let them see the list, and then you avoid taking that hit because these oils create inflammation in your body for years. They stick around for 2 to 5 years. Not good. So you can actually get this card for free. If you wanna download it, it's my gift to you for joining me today. If you go to seedoilcard.com, you could download the card for free. And if you're watching on Instagram or TikTok, you could just go to my profile link, the Linktree link, and hit that seed oil card link. But just go to seedoilcard.com and get it for free. And what you would do is you would download the PDF. It would be sent right to your email. Download the PDF, save it as an image in your phone. Maybe put it in like a folder or a favorites tab that you could find easily. And when you're at restaurants, you want to show that to the server, and then you don't take the hit. They will accommodate. It works really, really well. So seedoilcard.com is my gift to you. Use it. It's very, very important. And then we have some other things here listed, like pasteurized cow dairy. Here's an interesting study that showed 75% of adults in the population of the world, not just the United States, cannot process pasteurized dairy. They are lactose intolerant. 75%. Raw dairy is fine. The pasteurization is the issue. So you want raw dairy or sheep and goat dairy is much, much better. You can see I have that listed on the clean keto list. Then we have, as much as possible, you wanna eat organic. I know that's difficult to do because of finances for some people, but as do the best you can because non-organic meats and veggies, especially vegetables, have pesticides, herbicides, glyphosate. It's not good, it's inflammatory. And, below that, we have, farm seafood. It's farmed, uh, the traditional way of giving these, salmon and seafood the wrong food items and contains a high amount of something called polychlorinated biphenyls, PCBs. There are some companies that actually farm the fish the right way, and they're healthy, but keep that in mind. And then we have I know you can't see it here, but, we have almonds and spinach listed because a lot of people on keto do almond flour, almond bread, keto bread, etcetera, and yeah, that's keto friendly, but almonds have a high amount of oxalates, and oxalates are inflammatory to most people. And then same thing with spinach, high amounts of oxalates, so we don't wanna do spinach or almonds on keto. We wanna do macadamia nuts. We wanna do, pili nuts. We wanna do walnuts instead. Those are gonna be much better. Nightshades and legumes. So nightshades would include goji berries, eggplants, tomatoes. Those have a lot of nightshades, which for a lot of people could also be inflammatory. So we want to avoid that on keto as well. That could be causing a stall, preventing you from losing weight. And legumes would be like peanut butter, chickpeas, hummus, etcetera. That also has, these anti-nutrients we want to avoid as well. So that is the list of the ones to avoid, which I would call dirty keto. On the right here, you see a list of healthier options. So what do you cook your food in? Avocado oil, great. Avocados are great. Olives, olive oil, great. Coconut oil, coconuts, MCT oil, grass-fed butter, grass-finished meat, wild-caught seafood. I put green leafy vegetables there. That's gonna be for those who could tolerate the right ones, like arugula is fine for me. Pastured eggs, a lot of options for you to eat clean, right? So those are the options there. What you make that little swap right there, avoid the inflammatory foods, and I'm telling you, it'll make a big difference for inflammation, for brain fog, for joint pain, maybe some autoimmune conditions, etcetera. I'm gonna answer some questions here, but I wanna say aloha to my brother Daniel Eisenman. Uh, will you be in Miami over the Christmas break? I will, Daniel. Come on over. Let's record a podcast right here. Let's talk about your awesome uh, products that I actually have in my kitchen. Some bison capsules. If you want to talk about dense vitamins or dense nutrients, grass-fed and grass-finished bison, which is rare to find. Go check them out. Tribe Vitamins. Daniel, let me know, brother. Text me, man, and let's set up an interview and then a dinner, and we could take some of your capsules during our interview, my friend. Daniel wrote the foreword to my first book, Perfect Health Booklet. You might know him from YouTube, Raw Bras, Breaking Normal, his book, which is amazing. Go listen to it on Audible. It's a great Audible, etc. But let's get to some questions here. I see a lot of questions on YouTube. Nancy, good to see you in West Virginia. Jane, good to see you. Betty in Massachusetts, what's up? Nancy says, I love the new hairband. It suits you. Oh, thanks. This is actually the longest my hair has been in probably 10 years. I have not grown my hair this long. I don't know what keeps happening with the Instagram Live. Why is MCT oil love you too, bro. Thank you. Why is MCT oil, dense? Sorry about the connection. I don't know what's happening on Instagram, but why is MCT oil rather than short chain fatty acids? The unique thing about MCTs as it relates to ketone production is that MCTs bypass digestion and bile production. It goes right into the mitochondria of your cell. So in the relation to ketone production, C8 caprylic acid has the most research on that. Monica, good to see you from the Bahamas. Betty says, but I hate to think the chef will use olive oil that isn't truly olive oil because most olive oil is cut with vegetable oils. You're absolutely right. So on the card, it says, to your point, please make sure the approved alternatives are not cut with the allergic option. So I got that covered for you, Betty, over at seedoilcard.com. Phil, good to see you in Denver. Your Denver Nuggets beat my Miami Heat in the finals last season. They're looking good this year. Should you fast with the A1C at 4.7 A1C? 4.7 A1C is great. But I would look at blood glucose and blood ketones during your fast. Tina says, any special foods to help with black mold issues other than these changes? Black mold is really bad for you. The most important thing is to get out of that exposure. It doesn't matter what detoxification you do or how clean you eat. If you're still being exposed to black mold, you're not going to get the results you want. So find a way to remediate or get out. Go watch or listen to my recent interview with Ryan Blazer, all about mold. I'm going through it right now. The previous place I had mold, but anything that's anti-inflammatory, everything on this list is going to be good on the right side here. But you want to make sure you get out of the exposure, And I'm personally going through an 8-week mold detoxification protocol for me and my fiance. You want to do that as well. If you want to learn more about that, just email me support@ketocamp.com. We could set up a consultation so I could show you how to do that as well. How do you contact you asking anything about myself? You could ask right now, my friend. If you want to book a consultation, speakwithben.com. If not, you can catch me on these live streams, and I'm answering as many as possible. I thought kale was high in oxalates. It is too. Yeah, you want to avoid kale. Kale is not healthy. For sure. Avoid kale. How can you deal with high cholesterol on keto? High cholesterol is not really an issue. It's more of a problem to have low cholesterol than high cholesterol. So I wouldn't put too much value in one marker called total cholesterol. You want to look at HDL, which is a lipoprotein, high density lipoprotein. You want to look at LDL particles, and then you want to look at triglycerides, and then get the full picture. If you go on my YouTube channel, Cindy, and type in ketocam cholesterol, I have a lot of videos outlining exactly what to look for. I wouldn't worry too much about a total cholesterol marker. As a matter of fact, more people get heart disease with low cholesterol than with high cholesterol. Yep, dinosaur kale, I would avoid kale. Go Nuggets, yeah. As a Heat fan, it's hard to say that, but respect to the Nuggets, my friend. I am die-hard Heat fan. Let's see what other questions I missed here. Daniel, thanks for the badge, bro. You're awesome. Okay, I think I got most of them on Instagram. Scanning this. Yeah, hey, Becky. Coach Becky Nelson. Can you save this live? You would have to watch it on YouTube. Then you can see the full flip chart too. We have a little bit of I see we have a calorie counter that joined us earlier, Lewis. It's okay, man. Look, it's okay. Cognitive dissonance, my friend. Cognitive dissonance. I pray you catch up, my friend, my fellow calorie counter. As an ex-calorie counter, tell you that, to break free from that. Nobody ever goes from focusing on hormones, metabolism, counting calories. How many people have gone from counting calories to focusing on hormones? It happens all the time, but not the other way around. Isn't that interesting? Are the keto supplements helpful or not? Which ones? Which keto supplements, Gina? Marissa says, "I eat keto and fast with glucose sits often around 90 to 110 afternoon. Is that a dawn effect?" No, that's not a dawn effect. If that's happening after your meal, that range is not bad. If it's happening in a fasted state, you might have some insulin resistance. So building some strength, doing some strength training, maybe taking some berberine before a meal, etcetera, can help. The link for the seed oil card is, seedoilcard.com, seedoilcard.com to download that. By the way, as I review more questions here, this Friday, December 1st, can you believe we're already approaching December? This Friday, I'm releasing episode 700 on the Keto Camp podcast. 700th episode. I actually just recorded that episode this morning, and, I outlined some of the lessons I've learned interviewing over 600 people, some of the commonalities with those interviews, and I shared my gratitude for those who listen to the podcast, keep showing up, and the entire Keto Camp team that helps with the podcast. So stay tuned for that, and then I share a keynote lecture I recently did on 3 ways to lower inflammation and increase energy along with that, podcast episode. So it's called the Keto Camp Podcast. If you're not subscribed to it, as you can see, Camp with a K, and this Friday is episode 700. You know that the average person who starts a podcast does not get past 10 episodes. 90% of people who start podcasts don't get past episode 10. 90%. You know why? Because they're interested in having a podcast. They're interested in educating people. They're not committed. And Ken Blanchard said, "When you're interested in something, you do it until it's convenient, give up when it gets tough. But when you're committed, you do whatever it takes and accept nothing except results." So props to anybody who has a podcast and has passed episode 10. Props to anybody who has a podcast is in the hundreds. Props to anybody who has a podcast in the thousands. Look, it takes a lot of work to run a podcast, and we release episodes several times per week, and we've been doing that since July 2019. We launched our first episode with Dr. Tom. So we're on episode 700. We spend thousands of dollars each month to get the production value high and deliver it to you. And wait until you see the guests we have lined up for 2024 that are coming to Miami here to record podcasts for you all. I'm excited for that. Does MCT oil break a fast? Nope. Does magnesium break a fast? Nope. You're good to go. I don't know why it keeps pausing. December is nice. Pasture-raised eggs and poultry, can we have confidence in this label? Hey, Instagram, am I freezing on you? It keeps showing that my connection is poor, but the connection's not poor. I don't know what's happening. Let me know if I'm freezing on you on Instagram. It's not happening on TikTok or the other platforms. It's weird. Yeah, so when we think about eggs, you want them to be non-GMO, pasture-raised, organic. That's what you wanna look for. Poultry, you want it to be organic, pasture-raised as well. It's tough to say you could trust these companies and these labels because of the deception that has gone on, but I can tell you this, like Wild Pastures. Oh, my audio is choppy. No, it shouldn't be choppy. I've got this incredible mic here. Let me know on YouTube, Betty or Marvin or somebody else. Is my audio choppy? Maybe it's your internet, Julie? Let me know. Wild Pastures is incredible. I have a link for them with a special deal, but they quality beef proteins from regenerative farms. They're absolutely incredible. Oh, I'm freezing on TikTok too, huh? I'm not sure what's going on with the Wi-Fi. I know that on my computer, I'm hardwired in, but on the phones, I'm on Wi-Fi. I gotta make sure I, reach out to AT&T. Oh, it is choppy, huh? Okay, I don't know what's going on today, but hopefully you got the gist of what I spoke about today. 'Cause I see the soundboard here. If I lower this, it helps, and then bring this up a bit. Okay. I'll review the replay to see how to fix that for the next time. I apologize for that. I'm not sure what happened there. Let's get a couple more questions, and then we'll call this a wrap. Thank you, Farah, for listening to the show on Spotify. You're awesome. Thank you, Betty. I appreciate that. Thank you, Jackie. I appreciate you. Yes, commitment for episode 700. Cheers to 700 and cheers to 1,000 more. We're gonna keep it going. We have been releasing new episodes on the Keto Camp podcast every Monday and Friday, and then episodes on Wednesday and Saturday as well. Well, I apologize about the choppiness, but let's see. Hey, man, what do you think about sprouted nuts? Sprouted nuts are better than regular nuts. It breaks down the oxalates, so they're better. But even with that, I would see how you would feel. Thank you, Trevor. I appreciate that, my friend. I'm under 100 grams of carbs. Is that okay? If you want to be in ketosis, you want to drop that under 50 grams of carbs per day. 100 grams is still considered low carb and good, but under 50 grams is where you'll get into ketosis. I'm happy to hear that, Nancy. Thank you. Hope this is valuable. If you wanna watch the replay, the entire replay with the full presentation here, you can watch it on youtube.com/ketocamp. If you wanna get the seed oil allergy card to avoid vegetable oils at restaurants, head to seedoilcard.com and download it for free. Gina, thank you for the badge, even with the choppiness. So thank you all for joining me today. Subscribe to the Keto Camp podcast, episode 700 coming to you this Friday, 6 a.m. Eastern time release, and have an incredible rest of your day. Ooh, I was gonna say, I have vitamin G gratitude for you all. So thanks for joining me today. See you.